All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a cinematic look into a scenario that is, well, it's incredibly fascinating, but honestly, deeply unsettling. We're breaking down a documentary-style exploration of a massive hypothetical event. What if the internet disappeared forever? So, buckle up. To really wrap our heads around the scale of this, I want you to put yourself directly into a scenario that we all know intimately. Picture this. It's 11:59 p.m. You're lying in bed. The glow of the screen is literally the only light in the room, right? You're doing that final mindless scroll before going to sleep. A friend sends you a message. You tap to reply. And nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. Now, you know the drill here. You instinctually run through those universal troubleshooting steps we all do. Step 1, you refresh the app. Still nothing? Step 2, you figure, hey, the Wi-Fi is probably acting up, so you toggle it off and switch over to mobile data. No connection. Step 3, the classic fix. Just restart the whole phone. But when it boots back up, it's still dead quiet. Now, the truly terrifying reality here isn't just that your phone won't connect, it's that all across your city, and actually all across the entire globe, millions of people are doing those exact same 3 steps to absolutely no avail. Within mere minutes, digital life just falls silent. Social media platforms freeze. Search engines stop responding completely. Your favorite streaming services go dark. Emails refuse to send. Video calls cut out. There's no warning, no explanation. There is no backup system kicking in. The single greatest communication system humanity ever built is just gone. Part 1, midnight, the internet goes dark. So this is the exact moment a localized personal annoyance transforms into terrifying global confusion. Just look at the rapid escalation here. At exactly midnight, it's just individual frustration. You know, teenagers blaming the routers, gamers assuming the servers crashed. But by 12:15 a.m., the macro scale kicks in. Emergency meetings are called. Tech giants activate crisis teams. Governments are frantically searching for a cyber attack, a virus, a ransom demand, but they find nothing. Just 15 minutes later, at 12:30 a.m., the global economy hits a brick wall. Rideshares can't match drivers. Online banking abruptly halts. The entire world literally presses pause. What is so incredibly wild about this is the sheer physical irony of the whole thing. The hardware? It remains. It's perfectly intact. Data centers still have plenty of power. Satellites are still orbiting overhead exactly as they were designed to do. The physical machines still turn on. But the network, that invisible, magical thread that actually lets all these machines talk to one another, has inexplicably ceased to exist. And because that invisible thread is gone, we start seeing these massive cascading failures that go way, way past your smartphone. Inside your house, smart devices go completely deaf and dumb. Voice assistants can't answer you, security cameras can't send alerts. Outside, the entire financial system freezes up. Digital payments and ATM networks that talk to central banks totally fail. At the airport, departure boards freeze, airlines lose their booking platforms, and most critically, in hospitals, while life-saving local equipment keeps running, specialists suddenly can no longer access cloud-hosted medical records or remote consultations. All of this unravels in the very first hour. Part 2. The first 24 hours. The sun finally rises, and the world wakes up to a brand new reality. The terrifying truth sets in. This is not just a temporary glitch. It's not getting fixed before lunch. It's gone for good. We wake up to a world where communication has abruptly moved backward. In a massive twist of irony, one of the biggest events in human history is being broadcast entirely via old-school methods. TV stations interrupt their regular programming. Emergency radio bulletins are issued. People literally have to walk out of their front doors and talk to their neighbors just to find out what's going on. Almost overnight, the radio becomes the most trusted source of information on the planet. Of course, uncertainty breeds panic, right? The immediate fallout hits the streets before noon. People rush the supermarkets, hoarding bottled water, canned goods, batteries, terrified that the supply chains are going to collapse. Store shelves are picked clean. Meanwhile, the business world is absolutely paralyzed. Remote workers are totally locked out of their cloud files. Digital marketing is dead in the water. And suddenly, cash, that thing we all thought was becoming obsolete, is the absolute most essential thing you can have in your pocket. Long, anxious queues form at local bank branches as people desperately try to get their hands on physical money. But you know, the human cost goes so much deeper than just long lines at the bank. Millions of people lose their livelihoods practically overnight. Content creators, freelance writers, software developers, entire careers vanish into thin air because their workplace, their entire marketplace, simply doesn't exist anymore. Yet at the exact same time, dinner tables are getting a bit louder. Families are forced to actually talk to each other instead of staring down at their screens. It's wild, but a strangely human element begins to return right in the middle of a global crisis. Part 3, 1 week later, 168 hours. Now, jump forward a week. What we find isn't a total apocalyptic collapse. What we find is a world that has been forcefully required to reinvent itself. The fundamental shift here is stark. We went from information transferring at the speed of light to information transferring at the speed of, well, transportation. If you need to get a crucial document from an office in New York to an office in London, it doesn't take milliseconds anymore. It requires physical delivery, secure radio links, or incredibly slow private lines. It's fascinating to break down how massive this shift back to analog tools really is across different parts of society. Take offices. The digital cloud is gone, right? So the new analog way means local networks, strictly within the building, and a massive, tedious return to physical paper files. In schools, online learning platforms are totally dead. Teachers and students are dusting off printed encyclopedias and whiteboards, having to relearn how to actually source knowledge instead of just searching for instant answers. And in our communities, the endless scrolling on the couch is replaced by busy parks, packed community centers, and kids actually knocking on doors to see if their friends can play outside. Yep, suddenly, paper records and fax machines are the backbone of global commerce all over again. Now, global trade hasn't stopped completely, but it has become dramatically slower, significantly more expensive, and infinitely more complicated to manage without that instant trust and verification we used to have. So, by the end of this first week, governments and scientists have to make a really crucial pivot. They realize the old internet just cannot be restored. So the question changes. It's no longer, how do we fix it? It becomes, what comes after the internet? They have to start exploring how to design a completely new, far more resilient communication network from the ground up, one that humanity isn't so dangerously single-handedly dependent upon. Part 4, the verdict, 1 year later. Let's jump exactly 1 year later to examine a world that is completely unrecognizable to us today, yet it's functioning as the new normal for humanity. And it is a profoundly bittersweet reality. On one hand, people are spending way more time in their local communities. Libraries are packed, face-to-face interaction is simply the default. But on the other hand, that incredible global connection of ideas is deeply, deeply missed. A student in Nigeria can no longer instantly learn from a professor in Japan. A small business in Kenya can't reach the other side of the planet with a single click. The sheer acceleration of global scientific discovery has completely lost its momentum. The core realization from the documentary we're exploring is so profound. It was the day humanity discovered how much of modern civilization rested on a single invisible foundation. Think about it. We had grown so incredibly accustomed to instant gratification, instant answers, and instant communication that we built our entire modern existence on one deeply fragile, invisible system, without ever pausing to ask what would happen if it just broke. But honestly, the ultimate takeaway from this explainer is a massive message of hope. Because humanity's true greatest invention isn't the internet. It's not computers. It's not artificial intelligence. Our greatest asset is our adaptability. We survived ice ages. We crossed oceans without maps. We rebuilt after devastating earthquakes. Whenever we lose one way forward, our species has this remarkable innate ability to just invent another one. At the end of the day, civilization is built by people, not servers. Yes, without the internet, the world would absolutely suffer. It would slow down immensely. It would change in ways we can barely even comprehend right now. But it would survive, because civilization is driven by people who learn, people who create, and people who flat out refuse to give up when the world they know suddenly disappears. So I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If you knew the internet was going to disappear forever tomorrow, what would you do today? Who would you call while the line still worked? What digital memories, photos, and records would you frantically try to save? And what parts of your life would you suddenly realize actually mattered all along? Think about that before your screen goes dark. Thanks so much for learning with me today.